I'm starting a new RPG campaign, and that means it's time to draw a world map. So I just put the Making Maps guidebook up in my online store. This is a step-by-step guide on how to draw world maps. It's got some recommendations for tools to use, instructions on how to draw each of the icons, and lots of other advice. And the zine comes with this double-sided grid to draw on. One side is a normal 1-inch square grid, and the other side is a 1-inch hex grid. So pick and choose whichever way you want to draw your map. In this video, I'll be using the steps in the Making Map zine to draw my own hex map for my new campaign. Okay, step number 1 is to make a list of important locations. Here's mine. There's gonna be a ruined town, an elf town, a doggo town, a bunch of towns to visit, some dungeons, a wizard's tower, and an evil castle. You know, all the classics. Okay, step number 2 is learning how to draw the icons. I'm gonna skip this step because I've already learned, I wrote the book, so I know how to draw the icons. However, I am gonna keep the zine handy as a reference while I draw. Okay, so step number 3 is to sketch the map. I'm gonna skip this step as well. Actually, I'm gonna skip step number 4, which is labeling the map, and just jump right into inking. For this map, I'm using a size 08 Sakura micron pen. And you know what? I'll also put a link in the description to where you can print your own hex grid paper from as well. So really, I just wanted to jump into drawing the map for this new campaign. I'm in this kind of world building mood. I don't have all of the details figured out yet, but I just really felt like drawing a world map. And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but sometimes I think drawing maps is fun because you can actually get ideas from adding random stuff to your map. Who knows what's going on in these mountains or what the players will find in this ruined village. I imagine this map is going to change over the next few weeks, and you'll probably see a more finalized version in future videos. Actually, I know for a fact there will be a different map because it's going to be all pixel art. I haven't officially announced it on my Patreon, but the next 3 months, maybe more, are going to be all about this campaign. I'll be releasing an introductory adventure this month, then a book about the dungeons in March, and then a book of monsters in April. That's the plan right now, and of course I reserve the right to change that format as things unfold. And really, it's kind of hard to talk about all this stuff because I don't have a name for anything yet. You know, naming is always the hardest part for me, but the important thing to know is that this entire campaign is inspired by old Nintendo RPGs. Everything is going to be pixel art and old school feeling. I'm really excited about it because it's going to be a bit of a departure from the Flick Silverpen adventures. And I guess that's another reason I'm starting with this map. I'm trying to switch up my process for this adventure. Usually I would have way more details figured out before attempting to illustrate the entire world. You know, I definitely don't have a world map for the Flick Silverpen world, which I haven't even come up with a name for that yet either. For all the Flick Silverpen stuff, I started the world building process with the typical advice you always hear. You know, it's start with a little town and a dungeon and then expand outward from there. So I kicked it off with Dragon Town. It's a simple village in a valley, and then I built an entire underground campaign from there, one little dungeon area at a time. And I really like this style of world building. Each month on my Patreon, I released a new adventure that gives little hints about the world, and I'm building it very, very slowly with little pieces that other GMs can take or leave as they please. For example, in one of my newer zines, Flick Silverpen's Guide to Dragons, I explained a little bit more about the Gloomtide. It's a vast underworld filled with ghosts that is guarded by an all-knowing dragon. It's kind of like Flick Silverpen's version of purgatory or hell, and I guess eventually I'll do a Flick Silverpen's Guide to the Gloomtide. I don't know, if all that sounds cool, check out my Patreon and my online shop. All of this stuff is there. Like I said, I found this way of world building really rewarding. It's organic. You know, some ideas like the Gloomtide get bigger and expanded upon, while other ideas can stay small, almost like they'll be forgotten. In that same Dragon Zine, I mentioned the Grand Library, the Verdure Forest, and the Shivering Yonder. Those places could just be one-off references like the Kessel Run or the Clone Wars, or they could become a whole big thing like the Kessel Run or the Clone Wars. Do you see what I'm saying? But for this new campaign, I'm working on it a little differently. It's gonna be 3 zines, maybe 4, and the entire world is getting banged out in one go. I'm starting with this world map and then working backwards. It's kind of how I imagine old video game RPG creators working. They've got a big world map with a bunch of pixel art towns and dungeons just plopped down, and then they fill it in with conflict and monsters to create a story. Now, the major thing I am missing is what I usually think of as the alternative conflict, kind of like the B plot of a story. The main villain has their plans going on, and players will have a bunch of opportunities to get in the way of those plans. But to make this campaign really interesting and dynamic, there needs to be something else going on. Now, it could be a small thing like each of these places the players visit on the map will have something going on that's specific to them. Maybe that something has been made worse by the main antagonist, so it gives the players incentive to fix those things on top of just being helpful to those particular locations. Or maybe it could be something that is focused on the players themselves, like maybe they have someone else hunting after them the whole time they're trying to thwart the main villain. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. How am I gonna fit all of these ideas I'm having into 3 zines? So yeah, obviously coming up with this stuff is super fun, and you can see how drawing a map like this, you automatically start to fill in these details. And I think that's what's awesome about drawing these kinds of simple maps. The villages and the dungeons are just little icons, but there's so much story to be told in each little hex. The other cool thing about a hex map is that it's really good at showing distance. Maybe each hex takes a day to travel across, maybe half a day on horseback, or if the players can bargain with the elves in the forest, they'll get hooked up with some unicorns that can take them through 3 hexes in a day. And if the players want to get to the evil castle in the mountains, they're gonna need to fly there. Okay, I should stop. I don't want to spoil too much here. Hopefully over the course of this video, you've gotten inspired to do some of your own world building and draw your own map. It's really fun and easy and feels so creative. If you feel like you need some help, definitely check out Flick Silverpin's guides to making maps. You don't need any drawing experience to follow the instructions in this zine to make your own world map. It's in my online shop right now, along with a bunch of other zines that I've talked about in this video. And if this NES-inspired RPG sounds interesting to you, definitely check out my Patreon. It's what I'm going to be focused on over there for the next few months. And you'll be seeing lots more about it on this channel too. Pixel art maps of all kinds, pixel art monsters, more story stuff. I've got lots of videos planned, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Let me know what you think about all this stuff down in the comments. I know this video was a little all over the place. It's just, I've been feeling inspired, the ideas were flowing, and hopefully that inspiration has rubbed off on you a little bit and you're feeling jazzed to do some world building and create your own maps. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!